Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm taking you through my day as a homeschooling mom of 5, an hour by hour check-in, just showing you what a day looks like for me homeschooling 5 kids. I have one in preschool, one in elementary, one in middle, one in high school, well 2 in high school, one of whom is dual enrolling. So I've kind of joked all summer and here in the fall that I've got a kid in every stage of education from preschool through college. So I'm going to show you what that looks like and how I run a very efficient home and homeschool, considering the wide age ranges and all of their sports and activities as well. Today is also a video as a part of my collaboration monthly with Jessica from the Waldock Way, our monthly homeschool show and tell collaboration where anybody can join in and share on the topic. And this month's topic is our morning time. So I actually chose a day to film back in September. It was a Monday because our Monday morning time is our most efficient, most rigorous morning time of the week. And I'm going to take some time today to explain how I set up for an effective week by utilizing and capitalizing on that Monday morning push. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we are going to start out bright and early. Between 5 and 5:30, I am up getting ready to head to the gym if it's my gym day. John and I alternate every other day at the gym, and then we have a bit of a home gym set up here at home. So we just take turns who's at home and who's at the gym. So this was my gym day on this particular morning, and I stay for about 45 minutes, which means that I'm usually home between like 6:30 and 6:40. And I have a quick minute to get myself together, and then it's on to kind of waking the house up, so to speak. So I'm not necessarily waking my kids up at 6:45, but I do start turning lights on, and I start working on cooking breakfast, and I start packing John's lunch, and maybe I'm playing some hymns. And so I'm not afraid to make noise, kind of give everybody a chance to slowly wake up. A lot of my breakfasts I kind of prep the night before if I can, like if it's muffins or banana bread or even waffles, I'll make and freeze. So on this particular morning, the muffins were already made. I just had to scramble up some eggs and stick out some yogurt. And we serve breakfast right at 7. Between when the kids finish breakfast and when I want them to sit down for our morning meeting time, they're doing their own thing. They're making their beds. If anybody's got some laundry to put away, they might be doing that. They're just kind of slowly moving toward that 8 a.m. time when we sit together for our first school type thing of the day. At 8 o'clock, we sit down for what I call our morning meeting, which this is a beautiful time and it's very restful. Everybody comes to the couch. John's already at work, but everyone's still pretty cozy. Everybody's not completely ready for the day yet. Some are still in pajamas. People still need to do their hair, things like that. But we're sitting down and we are doing our family Bible time. Usually I'm just reading through the Bible recap with them, although we were in Ezekiel for quite a while. In the month of September, the kids wanted to go through that and we had a lot of discussions. We're also doing our community Bible study homework, and then we read our read aloud, which for the month of September, we read through the essays in the book Make Your Bed, which they all really liked that. Toward the end of that morning meeting time, I will turn on World Watch News, and that is like a transition point for me. I will get my 3-year-old ready for the day at that point. She usually wakes up during the morning meeting and kind of cuddles up with us for the end of that, but then it's time to brush her teeth, get her dressed. If I need to start something in the kitchen, get the crock pot going, anything I need to do to set up the schoolroom still, if maybe there's some stuff on the table still, or maybe I didn't put the books away or pull the books out that I need, I can get all of that kind of stuff done while they're watching World Watch News. And then they move away from that. They finish getting ready for the day, about 15 minutes maybe or so that it takes. And by 9:15, we're sitting down for our formal family subject time of the morning. Now, on Mondays, we add a couple of things into this morning time that we don't necessarily do for the rest of the week. One of those things is they are checking their file folder bins from Friday. So on Fridays, they file anything away that I need to review or grade or take a peek at. There are a lot of things that are set in stone that John actually grades. They have little spelling quizzes each week. Some of them will turn in their YWAM reports, and he'll read through those, make some notes, silly notes even for them to look at. We have a little bit of routine of what we expect. So if their spelling words are incorrect, then they'll write the correct ones. We do math drills that are graded. Not a ton of graded things, but just some things they need to review and then file into the appropriate folder in that bin. We have like a folder of things that need to be graded and a folder of things that are just being stored away. Once they've checked the grades, and they just put them in that other folder. And then we have a folder for each month of the school year. So it's easy to go back and take a peek at their logic exams or, their essays from all of the months. After they check their work, we take some time to organize their binders as they're putting things in there. I like a good Monday start. So we might be having to put some the hole punch stickers on if things are starting to fall out of their books, or maybe there's some extra papers or some sloppy handwriting. We'll just go through and start fresh for the week. I will also write out some new spelling or vocabulary words for them, and I will start putting some lessons on the board for the day. Other than that, we spend the rest of our morning meeting time doing what we always do, which is, there's one more thing I forgot to mention. I will also give them any new memory work for the week. So I'll tell them what catechisms I want them working on. We'll go over which new lines we're adding to our poems or our hymns, things like that. Then we get started for the day. So Monday, we have a lot more administrative type stuff happening, and then we'll get into like geography, Spanish, or history, reading through our composer or a poet or an artist study, things like that. So things that we would normally do during our morning basket time are the same things we've done over the years. It's nothing new here on this channel. I don't think I've added anything brand new that we haven't already been doing. So I have tons of videos on that if you want to go back and see what our morning basket time tends to look like. But I just thought it would be interesting to kind of show you how we have that efficient setup for the week ahead. I also, during our morning meeting time, one thing I did forget to mention on Mondays is that they get their checklists for the week, and those checklists are in their binders already. And that is something that I just did a planning video. If you want to go back and see my step-by-step planning video from a couple of weeks ago, you'll see how I get them those checklists and exactly what those checklists are. But when we sit down together on Monday morning and they're reviewing their work and they're setting up their binders for the week, if they have any questions about anything that I've written on those checklists, that's their time to ask. If they're like, why do I have 2 grammar lessons on one day? That's their time to ask me, so that they're not thinking there was some mistake I wrote down, or if they aren't exactly sure why I put something on one day, or if they might have something to say like, oh, actually you put a science lesson, but I have a quiz coming up or something like that. That's our time to review all of that. And so that's the other thing that we do before we get started on our poet, artist, composer, habit, all of those types of things. With having so many older ones now who are doing a lot of independent work, that is really the bulk of our together time for the day. It kind of ends around 10:15 or so. And at that point, from 10 to 12, is when our older ones are doing their own thing according to their checklist, but there's still little notes in there like, check in with mom on this one, or I tell them that I'm going to check their grammar lesson while they're doing it that day. So nobody is completely independent. The boys still bring me their science to go over each day with them before they start their lesson, but then they go do their lesson on their own. I just make sure I go over the details with them. But while the older ones are all working on some of their independent work, math, science, grammar, things like that, those subjects, I'm with my younger ones, so my 3-year-old and my 8-year-old. I'm helping, my 3-year-old isn't doing a ton at the moment, just a few little things with us and a few fun things, but my 8-year-old, that is when I do her handwriting lessons with her and her reading lessons and, all those kinds of things. And then I also do 5 in a row with my younger 2 together. Now my 3-year-old sits with me and our 8-year-old while I read 5 in a row, but she doesn't always complete the assignment, obviously, being 3 years old. Although if it's something crafty or baking or using manipulatives, she's definitely involved. But it's geared more toward my 8-year-old, but my 3-year-old loves reading with us. And so she'll do that with us. And then, like I said, I'll be checking in on my kids' typing lessons, popping in just to take a peek at their math lessons. But 10 to 12 is my super focused time with my little girls. I'm also using that time while they're hanging out because they're not working just directly with me for that full 2 hours. I'll maybe read a little bit, give them something to play with or do, or maybe my 8-year-old is finishing a handwriting lesson, and I'll also work on other little things I can do in pockets of time, like prepping some dinner stuff or just getting ahead on household tasks while I have the chance, because my time is very limited this year to get that kind of stuff done. Then right about 12:15, I will set lunch out. Now I have a lunch rotation that I have in place, but if there are leftovers, we will use leftovers first. So on this particular Monday, we had build your own sandwiches, set that little sandwich bar out for the kids, nothing fancy. I literally just set the packages of food out and called them in the room. So we had sandwiches, veggies, and little bags of chips. And 12 o'clock to about 1:30 is when we are doing lunch. They're doing their light chores. It's very simple, like somebody unloads the dishwasher, reloads the dishwasher, and somebody starts their own personal laundry load. And somebody sweeps as well. Those are those lunchtime chores. And then everyone goes in their rooms for some quiet time. We still do quiet time in our house. We have for many years. For our younger ones, they're just playing quietly, no technology, playing independently. It's their first time kind of playing with their toys for the day because they've been doing school in a very orderly fashion with me all morning. And then after lunch, they're done for the day. And then for my older ones, that's when they're working on their assigned reading. And then, some of them will be playing instruments, or I still have, a kid or two who will play Legos or, doing some art lessons or anything like that. Just regulating. Everybody just gets a moment in the afternoon to calm their little nervous system for the day. I talked to them about how it's such a blessing to have that time. And so that's a way that we can steward our time well, is to give our bodies and our minds a moment, because we do have busy afternoons at our house. We are really involved with our kids' sports teams and dance teams, and there's always something to sign up for. But on this particular week, I didn't have a meal that I was signing up for to feed the football or cheer program. We're a lot of times bringing different meals and different snacks and treats for the team. And so since there wasn't anything to sign up for this week, it was all signed up for, but it was homecoming week, I went ahead and ordered some crumble cookies to kick off homecoming week for the cheerleaders, just to give them a little boost. They were having a little spirit week. So I grabbed some coffee. It was about 2 o'clock or so, filled up my coffee. My older kids did what we call their power hour. So they worked on their Plutarch and their logic lessons together. I dropped them off. Like I said, it was Spirit Week. Bella, it was bring anything but Palms Day, so she brought oven mitts. That's why she had those. And then dropped the boys off at football, dropped Bella off at cheer, dropped Annie off at ballet, and then I ran some errands with my one and only little Miss Josie for a couple of hours. Got some gas, ran by the bank, did a Staples Amazon return, came home, and that's when I start the whole cleanup process of the day. Our day just keeps going and going and going, and so I do not have the chance to just be picking up all throughout the day. I'll do little bits here and there, but for the most part, there's a big afternoon push to get reset for the day, and she loves to play with toys at this time. I caught up on the phone with John because we had been kind of missing a chance to chat with each other all afternoon. And so then around 5 o'clock, I took off for a final round of errands, which John actually hung with Josephine during this time and then did all the kids' pickups for the evening. And I went to a Homeschool Association meeting. I'm the vice president of the board, so we had our kickoff meeting of the year. I pulled in the driveway around 7:30, and thankfully we had dinner prepped already. And then, and also John is so sweet. He brings me flowers on Fridays for like another school week in the books. We have a little stamp system, so he'll stamp the kids' checklists, and then I'll get some flowers, and we all close down shop for the week. But on the Friday before, we had an away football game, so we had to leave town pretty early, and so he brought me flowers on Monday, which was fun. We sat down to dinner, and then honestly, between like 7:30 and 9, I have no idea what happened. I probably was just like completely checked out, just still picking things up and just not really filming. But then once I got our 3-year-old and our 8-year-old to sleep, John sits with the teenagers, and they do their own devotion, kind of just discussion for the evening. They have some dad time, and then we pass out and do it all over again. So that was a peek at what a typical day in my life looks like. This was just a Monday in the life. And if you guys have any questions about how I set up our week on these Mondays, especially with that big morning push, leave those in the comments down below. If you want to see what morning time looks like in other people's homeschools, make sure you check out the playlist in the description box down below, where everyone's sharing their morning baskets or their morning routines or their morning time in their homeschool. And if you want to leave your own video, you have a couple weeks to do so. The info for that is in the description box down below as well. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye.